Well, it was an incredibly windy day out there at Thompson's bait camp. Normally, I enjoy going off to the left and going out and fishing the flats and sight fishing for reds, but this time of the year basically is throw some shrimp on the bottom and sit and wait, and that's what I did. But rather than go off to the left and around the corner over to Shell Island, I took a right and just kind of made my way up the shoreline. There are some pylons up in there, and if you know much about fishing, you know that redfish and sheephead and drum and croaker and everything else, they enjoy those pylons. So basically I just worked my way up and down the pylons. Now this little sheephead was the first one that I caught. You can see that it's a good fight. Enjoyed the fight. Nothing fantastic of size, but I ended up catching probably about 5 of them sitting there fishing around those pylons. And again, I was fishing with dead shrimp that day on a 2/0 hook, 10-pound test line. The Thompsons bait house didn't have any live shrimp. Their shrimp boat had malfunctioned that day, and that didn't really bother me for this particular venture, because I just wanted to get out of the house. I got out, I guess about 2 o'clock was when I got on the water and fished till about 4. So for about 2 hours, I probably caught 5, I guess, of these little sheep's head, and enjoyed them. Now, once again, I'm fishing with 10-pound test line, so it feels like you've got Moby Dick on the outside of your line. Now, this was quite a surprise, and it took a little bit longer. Again, I was just throwing up in there with the shrimp, but when I got the hit, I knew that it was something a little bit more significant. And again, when you are having something that's taking this much drag, this was a, again, 10-pound test line, you have to kind of fight and work your way around the pylons and make sure, and I am fishing with braid, so that helps a little bit. But we ended up catching a nice red up in here. I have caught some red up in here before. More sheephead than reds, but I have caught some reds. But this was a nice slot red. Put up a great fight. You can kind of see us working our way back in there, trying to make sure that he stays out of the pylons and doesn't make a run in there. I think that he makes a run around the boat here. Pulling a little bit of drag, not too much terrible drag, but still pulling a little drag. Great little fight here. Went to get the net and net him, and he made one more run, and I had to wait just a few more minutes to net him as he made his way around. My netting skills are pretty pathetic, by the way. Had to move him around. I have a trolling motor mounted up front. By the way, for those of you who may not know, this is a Blue Sky 360. It's what I call an old man's Cadillac of a kayak. When I was shopping for kayaks a couple of years ago, I wanted something where I was sitting up. I wasn't sitting down in the water. This has that double pontoon. It has been an amazing kayak. It has the pedal drive, which works great. I was able to mount a 62-pound, I think, thrust trolling motor on the front. We have the battery in the back. There's the redfish, beautiful red. Okay, let's try one more time to net him. So pathetic. There we go. And was quite happy with that. And again, I'm one of these kind of people. I don't eat fish very often, and so I released this 27-inch red. One time soon, I'm going to fillet a couple. I just really have trouble killing these beautiful, beautiful fish. And no, I'm not a PETA guy. I just, it's one of those kind of things. Now, this was later, and I moved a little bit further down, and I was fishing with the pole on the right. I was throwing up into the pylons, and I just threw this other line out. And I mean to tell you, it had only been out there a few seconds when it took off. And I do mean it took off. Now remember, I'm fishing with 10-pound test line, a 2/0 circle hook, and a piece of split shot on there to keep it on the ground. And I knew at this point that I had something I knew that I had something significant. I didn't know whether it was a big old black drum. I didn't know whether it was a red. But again, he was making a run back toward me, and I was worried because over off to my left is a bunch of pylons that I'm kind of right up against, and you'll see in a few minutes that there's a shrimp boat over there, and he's making his way over there, and there's really no way that I can horse him and do anything with him with such a small rod and light line. So I lifted up my power pole in the back, and I reeled in this other line, and you can see that I start backpedaling just to kind of get away from that shrimp boat. Now he's taking another rein, he's taking another run just straight out into the bay. And I know that with fishing with light line, which I really enjoy doing, quite frankly, but fishing with light line, I knew that my best bet was just to kind of wear him out. So I've backed up. I've gotten a little bit of distance between me and the shrimp boat and me and the pylons, and so I'll go ahead and here in a second reach down and put the power pole back down. The water in there's usually about 3.5 foot, depending upon what the tide was doing. On this particular day, when I got out there at 2 o'clock, the tide was way down from the north wind. But then when I got back up at about 4 o'clock, when I was leaving, I noticed that the tide had come in quite a bit. But still at this point, I don't know what I have. I've seen it boil up outside, or excuse me, out there in the distance. I saw it boil up. I saw its back, but I didn't see its tail. And the back of the black drum and the back of the big red are somewhat similar. And there he is making his way back over to those pylons, toward those pylons. And I'm doing everything I can to keep him from going over there into the pylons. Making a little bit of a run toward me, trying to keep up with him. And I think we get a good look at him right in here. It's someplace right in here when I get a look at him and I see his tail and I see the dot. And so I know that I've got a nice red. He's pretty close to the boat right here, but I think that he has one more run in him. I think right in there is where I saw his tail. You can see that old shrimp boat, Jehovah Jireh. That's what I was backing out from a few minutes ago, trying to keep him out of those pylons and trying to keep him out of the shrimp boat. Now he's underneath the boat, swimming around the boat, and I'm going to have to lift up the power pole because he gets wrapped around it, or gets between the power pole and the open water. Now he's making a run back over there toward that shrimp boat. Then he begins to make another run heading straight out. There ain't a lot I can do. Now the reason that I didn't, let me explain something. The reason that I didn't just follow out, the wind had shifted. When I got out there, the wind was coming across the land and this was fairly protected, but the wind had shifted and had increased probably up to 15, 20 miles an hour, and it was coming right down that shoreline. And if I get out from behind that shrimp boat, it's white capping out there and wind's blowing. So I really didn't want to just, pull up the power pole and let him pull me around for a while. I wanted to stay out of the waves, the white caps and stuff like that. So I would much rather lose a fish than fall in the water on a cold day. And even though it's sunshiny, it was cold. It was cold out there. Didn't seem that cold when I was standing next to the truck, but it sure did feel cold out there right then. Now I'm beginning to make a little bit of progress. I can feel that he's getting a little bit tired. And so am I, by the way. You can see the waves are kind of whipping us around pretty good. And again, I don't know if there's anything magical about this water right in here. I know that if you go up the other direction, you can fish around Shell Island and the Forbidden Islands and go around that corner in the marsh down there. And I really enjoy fishing that more because I sight fish a whole lot down in there. This is just, you know, once again, throw your shrimp down to the bottom and hold on. But hold on and wait. But you can see those pylons that are there between the shrimp boat. There's more pylons that are there going down. There's more pylons that are a little bit further closer to Thompson. And I like fishing this during the winter because it's usually protected and it'll get you out for a couple of hours to catch some fish. I went one day last week and I think I picked up about 5, maybe 6 sheephead up in there. And I also, by the way, I caught one earlier and I didn't put it in the film, but I think that I caught a freshwater catfish. It wasn't a hardhead and it wasn't a gaff top. And I don't know my catfish, but it was a fat sucker, pretty good sized sucker too. I guess we have so much freshwater that now we have freshwater catfish up in there a little bit. And now the redfish is taking me around and around the boat, and I'm having to watch the trolling motor. I think he's beginning to peter out a little bit. I'm talking about the fish and the old man you're watching. But there's a lot of structure along that shoreline, and again, it's great during the winter because it's usually somewhat protected. That's what I've been fishing this winter season when I can. Thompsons is one of my favorite places to launch out of. The only things that could make Thompson's Bait House better if it had a really good hamburger, but they don't have food there. There he is. He's come up to the top. You'll see him here in a second. I know better than to try to get the net. I've already given up on that. He's too big for the net. I fished enough bull reds out of the jetty to know that if you reach over and just slide your hand under their gills, that you can lift them up. And there he is. By the way, when I pulled him up, he wasn't really even hooked through his lips. He was hooked on the inside of his mouth in the soft tissue on the lower jaw, and really wasn't hooked all that well, so I was very, very fortunate to be able to get him in. He's pretty well whipped right here. When they give you the belly up, you know that they're pretty well whipped. I slip my hand underneath his gill, I lift him up, and I give out a whoop. I look around to see if just maybe somebody's out there watching me too, but nobody was. I laid him down, measured him 38 inches, over slot, beautiful, beautiful fish, and again, we set him free. I hope you enjoyed this. Tight fish, tight lines, enjoy the day, stay warm. Thank you for watching.